Chapter 2905, High-Grade Authority. When Weiyang Qianhen finished speaking, both the men tagging along with her and Hanifeng turned to look at Shi Feng in disbelief. Weiyang Qianhen's tone was gentle. Although her words sounded reproachful, they were actually intimate. Hanifeng found this situation particularly unbelievable. He looked at Shi Feng as if he was looking at a monster, his mouth nearly failing to close properly. Weiyang Qianhen currently enjoyed a lofty position in Yuantian City's upper zone, far out of even the 5 states corporation's reach. Many youths in Yuantian City's upper zone could only dream of getting acquainted with Weiyang Qianhen, let alone having her strike up a conversation with them. Previously, when Hanifeng spoke with Shi Feng about Weiyang Qianhen, he thought Shi Feng only knew of the woman's existence. After all, the Midnight Tea Party was extremely famous in God's domain as one of the best adventurer teams in the game. Anyone with a reliable information network in God's domain would have heard of it. Hanifeng never thought that the two of them were actually acquaintances and shared a good relationship. Meanwhile, in response to Weiyang Qianhen's questioning, Shi Feng smiled bitterly and said, "It seems I've made a fool of myself in front of Miss Weiyang. However, I was forced by circumstances to hide my true identity back then." "You sure know how to act mature," Weiyang Qianhen said sourly. Previously, she had thought Shi Feng was older than her, at least in his 30s, which explained how he came to possess such incredible strength. Afterward, she had constantly thought of surpassing Shi Feng one day, going as far as to leave the Midnight Tea Party for a long period to train like crazy. After all, Shi Feng had given her a lot of surprises during their initial meeting. She never thought a person could become so powerful. However, just when she thought she was catching up to Shi Feng, she received a shocking piece of news. Black Flame's true identity was actually that of a young man who wasn't even 25. Moreover, he was a bona fide self-made expert who didn't possess the slightest bit of background or expert guidance. She had fallen into depression for quite some time after learning about this. Shi Feng laughed blankly at Weiyang Qianhen's comment. In reality, it wasn't wrong to say that he was a man in his 30s. After all, he had been one when he reincarnated. "It's been a while since we met, and it seems you've undergone an amazing transformation. You're now a celebrity in Yuantian City's upper zone." "Me? That's where you are wrong." Weiyang Qianhen shook her head. She then pointed at the white-clad youth nearby and said, "I'd better introduce you to my senior brother." When Weiyang Qianhen said the words senior brother, she deliberately emphasized the word senior, causing the white-clad youth to smile bitterly before walking over. "And this is?" When Shi Feng looked at Qin Bai, he found the white-clad youth somewhat familiar. He felt as if he had met the other party somewhere before, yet he couldn't recall where. "Hello, Guild Leader Black Flame. We meet again," Qin Bai greeted with a smile. "Again? Have we met before?" Shi Feng grew confused when he saw Qin Bai greeting him like an old acquaintance. "Of course you've met. He likes to act mature, exactly like you," Weiyang Qianhen said as she glared at Qin Bai, gritting her teeth slightly. Smiling awkwardly, Qin Bai said, "Let me introduce myself. You can call me by my real name, Qin Bai. You can also call me by my game ID, Breeze Wine." "Breeze Wine? You're Breeze Wine?" Shi Feng was startled when he heard Qin Bai's words. Breeze Wine was the Midnight Tea Party's commander, someone Shi Feng had met and was relatively familiar with. However, the white-clad youth in front of him had a completely different look and bearing from Breeze Wine's wildness and boldness. While Shi Feng was feeling surprised, Hanifeng, who stood beside him, was deeply shocked. Qin Bai was not only a mental strength master but also the youngest mental strength master in Yuantian City's upper zone. Who would have thought that a mental strength master was actually the commander of a 20-man adventure team? Yet, God's domain's various super first-rate guilds and super guilds had ignorantly used threats against the Midnight Tea Party to recruit the adventure team. Those superpowers were simply tired of living. Don't mind it," Qin Bai said awkwardly when he saw the surprise on Shi Feng's face. "I wasn't hiding it. Playing God's domain is just one of my hobbies. After hearing Qin Bai's introduction, Shi Feng finally understood how Wei Yang Qianhen managed to catch the eye of a middle-layer big shot. It was very likely due to Qin Bai's introduction. Shi Feng also understood why the Midnight Tea Party wasn't afraid of the various superpowers and could continue existing all this time. With Qin Bai's status, which superpower in God's domain would dare offend him? Seeing Shi Feng in deep thought, Qin Bai took the initiative to say, "Guild leader Black Flame, you and your friends must be here to register your housing status as well, right? We are also here to deal with housing matters. Why don't we get it done together? I'll be in your care, then," Shi Feng said, accepting the offer. There were still a few people lined up, waiting to get their business done in the hall. If Qin Bai was willing to help expedite the procedure, it was naturally good news for Shi Feng. After all, the sooner he got gentle snow and aqua rose into the large mansion, the sooner he could alleviate the stress on their mind. Naturally, Hanifeng also didn't refuse the offer. He wanted nothing more than to establish a connection with Qin Bai right now. Although the Five States Corporation had a solid foundation in the base layer, the influence the corporation held in the upper zone was still insignificant compared to Qin Bai's. If Hanifeng could get acquainted with Qin Bai now, he would have an easier time when he entered the middle layer. After all, the middle layer wasn't an easy place to survive in. The competition there was even fiercer than in the base layer. Subsequently, the group had all its needs taken care of in less than 10 minutes. When the group arrived at the Green God Tower's entrance and was about to part ways, a commotion erupted from the street outside. The next moment, a maglev car suddenly descended from the sky and landed in front of the entrance, catching the attention of all the nearby pedestrians. Although the upper zone allowed residents to drive their own cars, that was limited to road use. Cars were prohibited from flying. The only ones allowed to do so were people with very high status in the upper zone. After the maglev car parked in front of the Green God Tower's entrance, two people, one young and one old, emerged from it. The young man was none other than Lu Tiandi, Starline Corporation's current heir. However, Lu Tiandi showed none of his usual arrogance, standing humbly and respectfully behind the black-robed elderly man. At this old man's appearance, many of the corporation heirs present gasped reflexively. Hanifeng's expression even paled when he saw the man. Why would he come here personally? Hanifeng's eyes were filled with disbelief as he looked at the approaching black-clad elder. This was because the black-clad old man was none other than the Infinity Master of Haitian City's upper zone, a mental strength master holding 2-star high-grade authority in the upper zone. In the upper zone, the Green God Company would award anyone who had become mental strength masters with high-grade authority and permanent residence in the upper zone's middle layer. However, as mental strength masters were not equal, high-grade authority was also categorized into different ranks, from 1 star to 3 stars. Most mental strength masters in the upper zone held only 1-star high-grade authority, with only a small number holding 2-star high-grade authority. For 2-star authority holders, their position in the middle layer rivaled the middle layer's general managers. The Green God Company awarded those who reached 2-star authority with 1 permanent reserve slot for the middle layer and the authority to banish disrespectful mental strength masters from the upper zone for a duration of 1 to 3 years. Meanwhile, Hanifeng knew that the Infinity Master, Fu Jiuzhong, held a slight grudge against Shi Feng. However, in his opinion, someone like Fu Jiuzhong had no reason to take action personally. At most, the Infinity Master would send some of his subordinates to harass Shi Feng. Doing more wouldn't be befitting of his status. Yet, contrary to Hanifeng's expectations, Fu Jiuzhong had made a personal visit to Yuantian City's upper zone. After arriving before Shi Feng, Fu Jiuzhong demanded with a lofty aura, "Are you Shi Feng? The one who caused my student, Wang Xianming, to get kicked out of the upper zone?" When Fu Jiuzhong finished speaking, the surrounding passers-by couldn't help looking at Shi Feng with pity. At the same time, they also wondered who Shi Feng was to warrant the Infinity Master's direct intervention. Moreover, based on Fu Jiuzhong's tone, if this situation wasn't handled properly, he might very well utilize his authority to banish Shi Feng from the upper zone for some time. And once outside the safe zone known as the upper zone, Shi Feng was unlikely to keep his life. At this time, Qin Bai stepped forward with a smile and said, Master Fu, this person here is my friend. Is there perhaps a misunderstanding here? Misunderstanding? I don't think so. Glancing at Qin Bai, Fu Jiuzhong said, also, you'd best not interfere in this matter. I don't care, even if you have your teacher's support. Master Fu, although you have 2-star high-grade authority, this is Yuantian City's upper zone. Qin Bai said with a solemn look. Read latest chapters at Wuxia World. Qin Bai felt a little helpless against Fu Jiuzhong right now. He was but an entry mental strength master, no match for a veteran like Fu Jiuzhong. Only his teacher could possibly put up a fight against the Infinity Master. After all, the 2-star high-grade authority wasn't just a status symbol for a mental strength master, it also symbolized strength. So what? Fu Jiuzhong sneered. Let alone you, even if your teacher personally shows up now, I still won't give a damn. You. Qin Bai was helpless at the moment. If Fu Jiuzhong intended to abuse his authority now, Bai Qini wouldn't be able to do anything about it with only his 1-star high-grade authority. After all, these were the Green God Company's rules. As for what kind of excuse Fu Jiuzhong would give to get the Green God Company to banish Shi Feng from the upper zone, he could simply trump up random offenses. However, as Qin Bai was thinking of how to buy time and get his teacher to come and help, Shi Feng suddenly stepped forward. Wang Xianming, is it? Looking at Fu Jiuzhong, Shi Feng responded neither humbly nor arrogantly, if you're talking about that home intruder, I am indeed the one who handed him over to the Green God Company. May I know what guidance you have to provide, Master Fu? Chapter 2906, Combating a Mental Strength Master. Although Shi Feng spoke in a tone that was neither humble nor arrogant, the surrounding passers-by and Hanifeng couldn't help falling silent, a hint of shock appearing in their eyes. That's the Infinity Master he's talking to. Has he lost his mind? Hanifeng felt his legs weaken when he saw Shi Feng's unyielding attitude. For long-time residents of the upper zone, mental strength masters were existences that shouldn't be provoked, all the more so a mental strength master with 2-star high-grade authority. Even the base layer's top-ranking organizations wouldn't dare to offend such an existence. Mental strength masters with 2-star authority could not only banish people from the upper zone for long periods but also teach those who offended them a lesson with little to no repercussions. While the Green God Company might penalize the mental strength master by deducting their trade points and contribution points, such penalties were nothing for a mental strength master of such caliber. Although Shi Feng's words and manner of speaking couldn't be considered offensive to Fu Jiuzhong, it was still a slap to the face for the Infinity Master. Hanifeng failed to understand why Shi Feng would step forward himself instead of letting Qin Bai cover for him. In his opinion, Shi Feng's action was simply insane. At this time, let alone Hanifeng, even Han Rongrong, who had been quite courageous before and even dared to challenge Shi Feng, shuddered involuntarily in fear. This was because a bone-biting chill was enveloping her entire body right now. Killing intent. This was a frightening killing intent Han Rongrong had never experienced before. The killing intent was so intense that Han Rongrong, a half-step Henglian Grandmaster, had the illusion that she would get killed the next moment. Her terror was so overwhelming that it had taken over her body, making her tremble despite herself. So, this is the strength of a 2-star master? Weiyang Qianhen revealed an indescribably grim expression as she looked at Fu Jiuzhong, feeling somewhat uncomfortable before the Infinity Master's mental deterrence. She had sparred with Qin Bai previously, so she wasn't completely ignorant of the strength of mental strength masters. However, compared to Qin Bai, Fu Jiuzhong was on a completely different level. From sparring with Qin Bai, she had come to understand that his mental perception and brain activity were vastly superior to hers. If he was willing to pay the price, he could even increase his brain activity and perception sensitivity by more than 10-fold at will, allowing him to make inhuman reactions. Fu Jiuzhong, on the other hand, wasn't just capable of simply boosting his thinking speed, he could already influence others with his mental will. It was akin to employing powerful hypnosis on his opponents. Most importantly, this mental deterrence wasn't directed at her but merely spillover. She found it truly hard to imagine what kind of hell the actual target of Fu Jiuzhong's mental power was experiencing right now. Of those present, only Qin Bai fared slightly better. Even so, he was still affected by Fu Jiuzhong's mental deterrence. Damn it. It's over. Fu Jiuzhong has actually broken through to that stage already. There's no way someone who hasn't reached the level of a mental strength master can resist this mental deterrence. Qin Bai inwardly cursed this situation as he endured Fu Jiuzhong's mental deterrence. In Qin Bai's opinion, Shi Feng was an excellent seedling. Not only did Shi Feng become a neutralizing grandmaster at a young age, but his mental strength standard had already reached the peak of the special grade. According to the report he received, Shi Feng had even defeated several Henglian grandmasters simultaneously. With such ability, Shi Feng might very well be only half a step away from becoming a mental strength master. Originally, Qin Bai planned to learn more about Shi Feng and then introduce Shi Feng to his teacher. However, all of his plans were ruined now. Mental deterrence was something that liberated a person's deepest fears. For this reason, it was normal for the minds of people subjected to mental deterrence to collapse. If a person had weak willpower, they might even die on the spot. Even people with very strong willpower would suffer trauma when subjected to mental deterrence, which would impact their future mental growth. Normally, only 3-star mental strength masters could exhibit mental deterrence. Although Fu Jiuzhong's mental deterrence wasn't as strong as an actual 3-star master's, his use of this technique proved that he was already close to reaching the 3-star standard. He might have already taken a step into the stage. However, when Qin Bai turned to look at Shi Feng, he was stunned. How is this possible? Fu Jiuzhong had clearly directed his mental deterrence at Shi Feng. Yet, apart from wearing a slightly solemn expression, Shi Feng showed no fear or discomfort on his face. It was evident that he could withstand the Infinity Master's mental deterrence. In fact, he was enduring it much better than even Qin Bai. Ha! Fu Jiuzhong remained mostly unfazed even after seeing Shi Feng's reaction, sneering, I initially had suspicions when I heard Tiandi say you might have become a mental strength master already, but I didn't think you had really become one. When Fu Jiuzhong finished speaking, everyone present turned to Shi Feng in disbelief. Han Feng, in particular, was thunderstruck by this revelation. Is he still human? The first time Han Feng met Shi Feng, the latter was merely the guild leader of a large guild. Although Shi Feng possessed some strength at the time, it was still insignificant in Han Feng's eyes. The next time they met, Shi Feng had already become a resident in the upper zone, with a considerable amount of resources that could be traded for contribution points. Now, Shi Feng had even become a mental strength master, an existence many corporations operating in the upper zone's base layer feared. Shi Feng's growth speed was simply out of this world. Han Feng wasn't the only one shocked by this revelation. Qin Bai similarly felt his heart pounding madly. A mental strength master under the age of 25? Previously, Qin Bai still had his doubts about Shi Feng being a mental strength master. However, since Fu Jiuzhong had said so, then it must be true. Nevertheless, he found it difficult to digest this information. Mental strength masters were special existences in the upper zone, the goal of countless young talents. However, typically, one could already be proud of oneself if one became a mental strength master by the age of 60 or 70. Qin Bai's achievement of becoming a mental strength master in his 30s already made him a rare talent that only appeared once every several decades in Yuantian City's upper zone. However, compared to Shi Feng, Qin Bai's achievement paled significantly. At Shi Feng's age, the growth rate of his mental strength was still at its peak. Only after the age of 30 would his growth slow than 5 years of rapid growth. If he continued developing himself, he could definitely become a 3-star mental strength master in the future, and possibly even reach the legendary Grandmaster standard. When Qin Bai thought about the possibility of introducing Shi Feng to his teacher, excitement filled his heart. However, before Qin Bai could grow excited for long, Fu Jiuzhong suddenly changed his tone and said coldly, Your achievement of becoming a mental strength master might be excellent, but do you think you can behave arrogantly in front of me just because you've become one? After saying so, Fu Jiuzhong suddenly punched at Shi Feng. Although Fu Jiuzhong had only executed a textbook punch, in everyone's eyes, this punch seemed to carry the power of heaven and earth. The power of this punch was unstoppable, and everyone instinctively tried to run away. Not good. Qin Bai's expression immediately underwent a drastic change. Dodge it. Fu Jiuzhong's punch didn't just exude a mighty aura that daunted others' hearts. The Infinity Master had also removed the limiters on his body to exhibit 100% of his body's strength. Moreover, he had perfectly concentrated this strength into his fist. Even a bona fide 3-star master would have difficulty blocking this punch. It was evident that after seeing Shi Feng's true potential, Fu Jiuzhong intended to cripple Shi Feng to rid himself of a future threat. Shi Feng, the target of Fu Jiuzhong's punch, understood how powerful the oncoming attack was. Fu Jiuzhong's fist wasn't the only threat like most people thought. There was also the intent from the Infinity Master's fist. Although the fist intent didn't have a tangible form, it was by no means harmless. Moreover, even if Shi Feng could evade Fu Jiuzhong's fist intent, he couldn't dodge the punch itself. And although Shi Feng didn't know how powerful Fu Jiuzhong's punch was, he had a hunch that if he allowed the fist to connect, he would end up either crippled or dead. And worse, he couldn't stop the punch with his current strength utilization technique. This was because he was currently incapable of removing all of the limiters his brain placed on his body. Read latest chapters at Wuxia World. You know. I will not let things end like this. As Shi Feng watched Fu Jiuzhong's fist moving closer and closer to him, his brain raced, thinking of ways to block the punch. When Fu Jiuzhong's fist was only half a meter away, a potentially viable technique suddenly occurred to Shi Feng, a technique he had wanted to use in the real world all this time but couldn't due to physical fitness and mental capacity limitations. Block it. With a shout, Shi Feng concentrated the strength of his body and removed the limiters on his 2 arms. He then brandished his arms as if he were brandishing swords and instantly executed the sword technique he had used thousands of times in God's domain. Swords Transmigration. Chapter 2907, taking on a 3-star mental strength master bang. Along with the sound of an explosion, the ambient air fluctuated, and even those standing more than 10 meters away from Shi Feng and Fu Jiuzhong felt these shock waves. The next moment, Fu Jiuzhong's punch came to an abrupt end, while Shi Feng stumbled several steps back before he managed to stabilize his body. The outcome of the initial confrontation between the 2 mental strength masters was clear for all to see. However, this result had Hanifeng and the others looking at Shi Feng in shock and disbelief. He blocked it. How did he do it? Fu Jiuzhong's punch was akin to a behemoth's attack. One could tell how much power the punch carried just by looking at the shattered stone slabs under Fu Jiuzhong's feet. The upper zone's pavement was extraordinary, its hardness comparable to steel. Even a Henglian Grandmaster's full-powered attack would, at most, crack it. Yet, the stone slabs directly under Fu Jiuzhong's feet had basically disintegrated, while the adjacent slabs had web-like cracks spread across them. Fu Jiuzhong's punch could probably knock a car back over a dozen meters. The attack undoubtedly reached inhuman levels already. What did he do just now? Qin Bai stared at the uninjured Shi Feng in confusion. Compared to the other spectators, Qin Bai had a far better understanding of how much power Fu Jiuzhong's punch carried. An entry-level mental strength master would be fortunate to sustain only minor injuries from the punch, let alone emerge intact. Typically, if the average human removed all of the limiters restricting their body, they could lift an entire car. Meanwhile, Fu Jiuzhong was a mental strength master who had tempered his body over several decades. One could easily imagine how much power he could exert if he removed his limiters and concentrated all his strength into his fist. Of course, executing such a move would also place a huge burden on the body. If an ordinary person tried replicating Fu Jiuzhong's move without having absolute control over their physical body, they would most likely end up crippled afterward. This was because the limiters the brain placed was a form of protection for one's body. However, it was a different story for mental strength masters of Fu Jiuzhong's caliber. Currently, not only did Fu Jiuzhong have perfect control over his body's strength, but he could also freely turn his body's limiters on and off. So long as he turned off his limiters the moment he attacked and instantly turned them back on after executing his attack, he could minimize the damage to his body. He might even be able to offset the damage completely by using his body's resilience. And this was also what made 3-star mental strength masters so frightening. On the other hand, Shi Feng was evidently incapable of removing all of his body's limiters right now. Yet, by relying on a strange technique and incredible speed, he had successfully blocked Fu Jiuzhong's punch. More precisely, he had deflected the power of the Infinity Master's punch and received only part of the attack's power and impact. This feat was simply incredible. In reality, Qin Bai wasn't the only one surprised by this outcome. Shi Feng himself felt shocked and ecstatic. He never thought his plan would succeed. Although he had failed to fully replicate Sword's transmigration just now, the incomplete technique still allowed him to resist Fu Jiuzhong's full-powered blow. However, Shi Feng now felt his mind stagnating slightly, due to using Sword's transmigration with his mortal body. His brain had evidently overloaded itself to enable his body to execute the technique. He diverted my strength? Fu Jiuzhong eyed Shi Feng in incomprehension. He couldn't understand how Shi Feng's 2 strange chopping strikes had managed to scatter the power in his fist. At the moment of contact, he had felt some kind of power invade his body and deform his posture slightly. This, in turn, caused the power of his punch to plummet and allowed Shi Feng to escape unscathed. Was it luck? Fu Jiuzhong shook his head, dismissing his thoughts. He promptly dashed toward Shi Feng and executed a flurry of punches, giving him no time to catch a breather or create another miracle. Fu Jiuzhong had come to Yuantian City's upper zone intending to teach Shi Feng a lesson, have Shi Feng give up a significant portion of Zero Wing's shares, and avenge his student. After seeing Shi Feng's potential, though, he realized there was no way the young man would give up Zero Wing's shares. However, reconciliation between them wasn't possible after Fu Jiuzhong had sent the various corporations' experts after Shi Feng. Fu Jiuzhong also couldn't forgive the arrogant behavior Shi Feng took in front of him. Hence, only one path remained open to Fu Jiuzhong: crippling Shi Feng and utilizing his mental deterrence to arouse Shi Feng's inner fears. Even if Shi Feng was a mental strength master, this would still leave an indelible trauma in his heart. If that happened, Shi Feng's future as a mental strength master would be over. And while Fu Jiuzhong would suffer repercussions from the Green God Company afterward, the penalty wouldn't be anything severe. After all, there was no way the Green God Company would choose to lose a 3-star mental strength master after already losing a young talent. Fu Jiuzhong executed his punches with all his might, without a fixed pattern. Of course, with how fast his attacks were, Fu Jiuzhong couldn't concentrate all his strength into every punch. Hence, the punches he currently executed were significantly weaker than his first one. Even so, they still weren't attacks an ordinary mental strength master could receive. After images of Fu Jiuzhong's fists filled the space between Fu Jiuzhong and Shi Feng. Even ordinary mental strength masters, who could amplify their perception by more than 10-fold, couldn't adequately capture every one of these punches with their senses. Is he nuts? Shi Feng's complexion changed as he faced Fu Jiuzhong's attacks. Even an expert of Fu Jiuzhong's caliber would suffer serious injuries if he executed so many attacks without any limiters. The fact that he was doing so was simply ridiculous. However, Shi Feng also had to admit that Fu Jiuzhong's attacks were effective. He could hardly keep up with the attacks, let alone execute Sword's transmigration to deflect them. When Fu Jiuzhong's punches were about to reach him, Shi Feng gritted his teeth and liberated the limiters on his muscles once more. He then brandished his arms as if they were 2 long swords. Sword's orbit. Bang. 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 Less than 1 meter separated Fu Jiuzhong and Shi Feng as they clashed in front of the Green God Tower. Although none of the surrounding pedestrians could see the arms of either mental strength master, the numerous thunderous explosions and shock waves made everyone feel as if they were standing in a storm. 2 seconds into the clash, Shi Feng began retreating step by step, evidently at a disadvantage. And although Shi Feng had successfully deflected all of Fu Jiuzhong's punches thus far, his complexion grew paler and paler as time passed. "Let's see how long you can last." Fu Jiuzhong sneered when he saw Shi Feng's poor complexion. Although Fu Jiuzhong was sustaining heavy damage by executing so many attacks with his limiters fully liberated, the damage wasn't unbearable. At worst, he would have to consume life potions for a month, but all his injuries would eventually disappear as if they never existed. However, it was a different story for Shi Feng. If the young man failed to hold on now, he would be crippled in the future. The seconds ticked by one after another. Qin Bai, who was watching the entire fight, grew increasingly anxious. "Senior brother, is there nothing you can do?" Weiyang Qianhen asked when she saw Shi Feng's ashen face. In a frustrated tone, Qin Bai responded, "I want to step in, but the fight between them is no longer at a level where I can intervene. I might even make the situation worse for Shi Feng. All we can do is wait for teacher to arrive." Qin Bai wanted nothing more than to intervene in the fight, but he simply lacked the ability to do so. After all, even after pushing his senses to their limits, he still couldn't keep up with Shi Feng's and Fu Jiuzhong's movements. If he charged in recklessly, he might get sent flying by some random attack. 10 seconds into the fight, Fu Jiuzhong's complexion began turning red, while Shi Feng's turned deathly pale. A look of deep fatigue also surfaced in Shi Feng's eyes, and it was evident he could last only a few more seconds. "Die." Fu Jiuzhong accelerated his punches when he noticed Shi Feng faltering. He planned to end the fight right here and now. Upon seeing this, Qin Bai reflexively closed his eyes, while Weiyang Qianhen's complexion turned grim. Just as Fu Jiuzhong's fists were about to overwhelm Shi Feng's defense, a rebuke suddenly echoed in everyone's ears. "Both of you, stop fighting this instant." Although this voice wasn't deafening, it still stimulated everyone's mind and compelled them to obedience. Among those present, only Fu Jiuzhong, Shi Feng, and Qin Bai remained mostly unaffected by the voice. However, immediately afterward, an incomparably powerful mental deterrence assaulted Fu Jiuzhong and Shi Feng, causing them to stumble back several steps. This scene amazed the surrounding spectators, and everyone couldn't help wondering about the identity of the voice's owner. When everyone turned toward the voice's origin, what they saw were two people walking out of the Green God Tower's entrance. One was a beautiful woman with her black hair tied into a ponytail, and the other was a white-clad old man walking with a hunched back and a cane. Most of the people present quickly recognized the woman. She was none other than Xia Qinying, the base layer's general manager. The old man Xia Qinying was supporting, though, was someone unfamiliar to them. Only Qin Bai recognized the old man, and he couldn't help a look of panic and disbelief at seeing the old man. Looking at the approaching old man, Fu Jiuzhong gnashed his teeth and yelled, "Wu Yuan! I'm only teaching an arrogant kid a lesson. Are you going to interfere in this as well?" The white-clad old man's name was Xia Wu Yuan. In addition to being the middle-layer general manager of Yuantian City's upper zone, he was also a bona fide 3-star mental strength master, someone with real authority in Yuantian City's upper zone. Rumor had it that he was only half a step away from becoming a mental strength grandmaster. However, for Fu Jiuzhong, who had just recently become a 3-star mental strength master, Xia Wu Yuan wasn't an existence to fear. "Jiuzhong, this is Yuantian City's upper zone. Do you take this place for a joke?" Xia Wu Yuan said as he glanced at Fu Jiuzhong. "This matter ends here. Shi Feng is already a talent Yuantian City's upper zone has set its eyes on. I won't sit still if you persist in making a scene." Xia Wu Yuan's words thundered in Fu Jiuzhong's ears, causing his expression to turn ugly. Fu Jiuzhong then glared at Shi Feng and said coldly, "Consider yourself lucky today, kid. However, don't think you'll be as lucky next time." After saying so, Fu Jiuzhong got back into his maglev car together with Lu Tiandi and departed the area, disinclined to exchange any more words with Xia Wu Yuan. "Teacher, are we going to let Shi Feng go, just like that?" Lu Tiandi asked. With them having thoroughly offended Shi Feng, if they didn't cripple Shi Feng now, he would definitely become a thorn in their side with his extraordinary potential. After taking a deep breath, Fu Jiuzhong shook his head and said, "That old ghost is already close to crossing that threshold. I can't go up against him. However, that doesn't mean I'll let that kid off. After I apply for 3-star high-grade authority and get it approved, I'll have one chance to train in the core area and solidify my gains. Once that happens, that kid won't be able to stop me as easily as he did today." Lu Tiandi breathed out a sigh of relief at Fu Jiuzhong's words. If Fu Jiuzhong could train in the upper zone's core area even for a short period, he would definitely return stronger and would have a much easier time dealing with Shifeng. Most importantly, Fu Jiuzhong could afford to do a lot more things once he gained 3-star high-grade authority. Read latest chapters at Wuxia World. EU. Meanwhile, after Fu Jiuzhong and Lu Tiandi left, Shifeng hurriedly approached Xia Qingying and Xia Wuyuan to thank them. If not for Xia Wuyuan's intervention, Shifeng really would have succumbed to Fu Jiuzhong's attacks. This little fellow has quite the talent, Xia Wuyuan thought to himself as he scrutinized Shifeng. He then said, "Qingying mentioned you to me before. She said you were even more talented than Bai. I initially thought she was joking, so it is fortunate I had some business here today. Otherwise, Fu Jiuzhong would have crippled you. Thank you for helping me, Elder Xia." "Thank you as well, General Manager Xia," Shifeng said as he looked at Xia Wuyuan and Xia Qingying nodding at Shifeng. Xia Qingying said, "You really surprised me. Although I've long since known you would become a mental strength master sooner or later, I didn't expect you to break through in such a short time. It seems I didn't invite my grandfather here in vain." Shifeng grew a little awkward after hearing Xia Qingying's words, unsure of how to explain himself. After all, his rapid growth was a complete accident. "Ahem, that's enough talking. You'll have plenty of chances to talk in the future," Xia Wuyuan said, faking a cough. He then looked at Shifeng and said, "Kid, now that you've become a mental strength master, come with me to the middle layer." Chapter 2908, Middle Layer. We're going to the middle layer now? Shifeng was a little surprised by Xia Wuyuan's words. According to his understanding, while one could indeed live in the middle layer once one became a mental strength master, one would first need to clear the Green God Company's internal test and review. One couldn't enter the middle layer simply on the assumption that one was a mental strength master already. After all, the middle layer was an incredibly important location for the Green God Company. Even the middle layer's official residents needed to undergo strict inspections every time they entered and left. When Qin Bai overheard Xia Wuyuan's words, he was dumbfounded. Qin Bai still remembered that after he became a mental strength master, he had to go through an incredibly troublesome process to gain access to the middle layer. Yet, Shifeng could enter the middle layer before even receiving the Green God Company's recognition. However, Xia Wuyuan indeed had the authority to make such a decision as the middle layer's general manager. Even if Shifeng weren't a mental strength master, Xia Wuyuan could still bring him into the middle layer, just without official residential status. Of course. Although you haven't passed our internal test and review yet, the fact that you held your ground against Fu Jiuzhong proves that you are indeed a mental strength master, Xia Wuyuan said, nodding. He then smiled and continued, "Since you are now one of Yuantian City's upper zone's mental strength masters, you naturally have to get registered at the middle layer immediately. Or are you telling me you don't want the middle layer's residential status?" "Of course not," Shifeng said hurriedly. "It will naturally be wonderful if I can get my residential status for the middle zone right now." The resources available to the middle layer's residents were beyond the reach of the base layer's residents. Specifically, he could purchase life water once he gained middle layer residential status. Good. Let's go, then. After Xia Wuyuan finished speaking, he waved his hand, and a maglev limousine marked with the Green God Company's logo descended from the sky. He then entered the limousine together with Xia Qingying and Shifeng, and the three of them flew straight toward the mountain's halfway point. At this sight, Hanifeng and the other corporation heirs aiming to enter the middle layer inevitably grew envious. Brother Shi's status is going to skyrocket now. Hanifeng was filled with complex emotions as he watched Shifeng depart. Hanifeng had constantly been seeking to gain the privilege to live in the middle layer. Yet, Shifeng now had this privilege at his fingertips. Shifeng had even gained the attention of Xiao Wuyuan, the middle layer's general manager. Even after entering the middle layer, Shifeng would not have to fear being targeted. What a pity. Qin Bai also sighed inwardly at this situation. If the middle layer's big shots found out about Shifeng's talent, they would desperately try to get him as their student. Qin Bai's teacher wouldn't be an exception. Now, though, Xiao Wuyuan had gotten ahead of everyone. A mental strength master, is it? I'll soon catch up to you. Unlike Qin Bai and the others, when Weiyang Qianhen saw Shifeng departing for the middle layer, the urge to compete with Shifeng bloomed in her heart. On the other side, Shifeng's group arrived in the middle layer after going through multiple electronic scans and inspections. Upon entering the mist-shrouded area, Shifeng felt a significant portion of his accumulated mental fatigue clear up. The middle layer's recovery effects were drastically better than those of the large mansion's environment. When Xiao Wuyuan brought Shifeng to a mansion flanked by a lush mountainside and a small waterfall, Shifeng was completely stunned by the environment. Isn't the environment here a little too amazing? It's at least twice as good as the environment I felt when I entered the middle layer. Even without doing anything, I can probably live up to 160 or 170 years old in such an environment, Shifeng exclaimed as he experienced the changes the mansion's environment brought to his body. This is one of only 20 top-tier mansions in the middle layer. Let alone 160 or 170. A Henglian Grandmaster can live up to 200 here without any problems, Xiao Wuyuan said, chuckling. As the Green God Company's life technology continues improving, the lifespan of the middle layer's residents will also increase. Eventually, this place will let even ordinary people live up to 200 years old. As for mental strength masters like yourself, you might live to celebrate your 300th birthday. 300? Shifeng was a little dazed. 300 years was already enough for a change in dynasties during ancient times. That's right. Although it is still somewhat difficult to reach such an age in the middle layer right now, the improvement is only a matter of time, Xiao Wuyuan said, nodding. However, if you become a mental strength grandmaster, reaching 300 won't be difficult at all. Are mental strength grandmasters that strong? Shifeng asked in surprise. With his current physical fitness, even with the support of life potions in the middle layer's environment, he could, at most, live to around 200 years old. He dared not think about living up to 300. Yet, Xiao Wuyuan stated that a mental strength grandmaster could currently live up to 3 centuries. This was incredible. Of course. Mental strength grandmasters are much stronger than you think. They can exert 100% control over their brains. To ordinary people, they are no different from gods. The Green God Company's creator was also a mental strength grandmaster, Xiao Wuyuan said, awe and envy appearing on his face. Shifeng was stunned once more. The Green God Company was the most influential corporation in the world. The combined influence of every other corporation worldwide couldn't match the Green God Company's influence. Shifeng never imagined that the founder of this corporation was a mental strength grandmaster. This was simply unbelievable. Seeing Shifeng's dazed expression, Xiao Wuyuan added, you, too, have a small possibility of becoming a mental strength grandmaster. It is for this possibility that I brought you to the middle layer. Only by living here can you better develop your mental strength. Letting you remain in the base layer is simply a huge waste. Shifeng immediately came to a realization when he heard Xiao Wuyuan's words. It was no wonder Xiao Wuyuan brought him straight to the middle layer without undergoing the Green God Company's test. When Xiao Wuyuan saw Shifeng's contemplative expression, he smiled faintly and asked, "You're thinking that with your potential, I'm underestimating you by saying that you only have a small possibility of becoming a mental strength grandmaster, right?" Shifeng didn't deny Xiao Wuyuan's guess. In his opinion, if the Tier 5 concentration standard of God's domain represented the master standard for mental strength in the real world, then the Tier 6 concentration standard should correspond to the mental strength Grandmaster standard. Meanwhile, Shi Feng was relatively confident that he could get promoted to Tier 6 in his current state. After all, he had an ancient god's legacy. He even had items that improved concentration, such as the Soul Water and Crystal of Souls. Raising his concentration to the Tier 6 standard with the help of these items shouldn't be difficult. As if having seen through Shi Feng's thoughts, Xiao Wuyuan said, even if your concentration reaches the Tier 6 standard in God's domain, you will still be a long way from becoming a mental strength Grandmaster. According to God's domain's concentration categorization, the Tier 6 concentration standard is only equivalent to the half-step mental strength Grandmaster standard. Currently, you are still far from becoming a half-step Grandmaster, let alone becoming an actual Grandmaster. You are, at best, close to the 2-star Master standard. The Tier 6 concentration standard is equivalent to only the half-step mental strength Grandmaster standard? Shi Feng was startled. Shi Feng had experienced what it was like to have Tier 6 concentration thanks to the light of 2 worlds, and the experience was amazing beyond imagination. With Tier 6 concentration, he could suppress even ordinary Tier 5 existences with his mental oppression. Tier 4 players that weren't at the peak of Tier 4 would even lose consciousness on the spot. In his opinion, this should already be equivalent to the rumored mental strength Grandmaster standard. Yet, according to Xiao Wuyuan, that wasn't the case at all. If Xiao Wuyuan was telling the truth, then Shi Feng couldn't even begin to imagine how powerful a mental strength Grandmaster's mind was. Can you not make it sound as if half-step mental strength Grandmasters are very weak? I'll have you know that even Yuantian City's upper zone has only 3 half-step Grandmasters, while some of the other upper zones have only 2. Our upper zone is considered above average already, Xiao Wuyuan said, rolling his eyes at Shi Feng. Also, I managed to assign you this top-tier mansion only because of one other person's recommendation. Otherwise, even with your excellent talent, you'd only get to live in a basic mansion in the middle layer. You'd need first to become a 3-star master to live here. Another person's recommendation? Shi Feng grew curious. Most of his acquaintances in the upper zone lived in the base layer, and he knew none of the big shots living in the middle layer. You know this person. She's the person you've been secretly investigating. Her ID in God's domain is Phoenix Rain, Xiao Wuyuan said. If not for this girl's recommendation, you would have received a similar treatment to the other mental strength masters. Phoenix Rain? Shi Feng was surprised. She's also living in the middle layer? What is her current condition? Shi Feng had conducted plenty of investigations into Phoenix Rain. After all, Ji Luorong was very concerned about her elder sister. However, he never managed to find any information. He never thought that he would receive news of Phoenix Rain from Xiao Wuyuan. Moreover, it was even Phoenix Rain who had recommended him to the middle layer. I can only say that it isn't good. Apart from that, there is nothing else you should know right now, Xiao Wuyuan replied, shaking his head. To be precise, you still don't have the qualifications to know. Her condition isn't good? Shi Feng fell into deep thought. After a moment, he asked, Elder Xia, how do I get the qualifications you speak of? Originally, Shi Feng didn't hold much hope of acquiring information about Phoenix Rain. This was because Phoenix Rain's situation definitely involved a huge secret. He was fortunate to obtain even this slight bit of information. But now that he was a mental strength master, if he could help Phoenix Rain, he would naturally do so. After all, Phoenix Rain had helped him a lot previously. Phoenix Rain's little sister, Ji Luorong, was now an important member of Zero Wing as well. There was no reason not to help. If you make a significant contribution to the Green God Company and elevate your authority to the 3-star high-grade status, you can know a little more, Xiao Wuyuan said after giving the matter some thought. Significant contribution? Upon hearing that he had a chance, Shi Feng asked hurriedly, may I know how many contribution points I will need for that? Significant contributions cannot be weighed using contribution points, Xiao Wuyuan replied, shaking his head. If you want to make a significant contribution, the only available avenue for you right now is driving off the Outer World's NPC army in God's domain. If you can do that, you might even be able to meet with her. Repel the Outer World NPC army? Shi Feng frowned slightly at Xiao Wuyuan's answer. The Outer World's NPC army was different from the Outer World's player army. After all, the player army didn't even have a single Tier 5 player in its ranks. In contrast, the NPC army had Tier 5 NPCs and might even have demigod-level NPCs. Just stopping the NPC army's advance was already a difficult feat. Repelling it was simply impossible for the Eastern Continent's native forces. Read latest chapters at Wuxia World. You should stop thinking about this matter and focus on developing your mental strength, Xiao Wuyuan said. Although you've become a mental strength master and entered the middle layer, Fu Jiuzhong has already become a 3-star master. If he's really intent on targeting you, you'll probably have to spend the rest of your life cooped up in here. Outside of the middle layer, he'll have plenty of ways to deal with you. Shi Feng nodded in agreement. Currently, the Infinity Master indeed posed a significant threat to him. If Xiao Wuyuan hadn't appeared today, Shi Feng definitely would have suffered severe injuries. Moreover, he couldn't stay in the middle layer or upper zone forever, as he needed to manage Zero Wing's affairs in the outside world. Elder Xia, may I know how I can purchase life water? Shi Feng asked. Shi Feng might not be able to leave the upper zone right now, but with Fu Jiuzhong's status and pride, the latter definitely wouldn't stoop so low as to target Zero Wing's other members. After all, none of Zero Wing's other members could pose a threat to him. And if Fu Jiuzhong targeted Zero Wing's other members, the upper zone's other residents would look down upon him. However, Shi Feng couldn't discount the possibility of Fu Jiuzhong having the upper zone's various corporations secretly target Zero Wing either. Hence, the first thing Shi Feng needed to do now was let Gentle Snow and Aqua Rose recover. With their strength, protecting Zero Wing from Fu Jiuzhong's henchmen wouldn't be difficult. Chapter 2909, Soul Improves, Purchase Life Water. Looking at Shi Feng's slightly pale complexion, Xiao Wuyuan said in confusion, "Your current authority is 1-star high grade, so you're allowed to exchange for only 1 bottle per year. However, the main purpose of life water is to replenish life. With a mental strength master's regenerative abilities, you can just use the life potions or the meditation potions exclusive to the middle layer to repair minor physical or mental damages. Are you sure you want to exchange for life water? I can only exchange for 1 bottle per year?" Shi Feng frowned slightly at Xiao Wuyuan's words. In Gentle Snow and Aqua Rose's current condition, they would easily survive for more than a year if they lived in the base layer's large mansion. However, Zero Wing couldn't afford to wait for a year. After all, Gentle Snow and Aqua Rose had many responsibilities they needed to handle. This was especially true for the management of the guild's headquarters in the real world. Fire Dance and Lei Bao couldn't manage the entire headquarters by themselves. Not to mention, Fire Dance and the others would be coming to the upper zone to train soon. There are alternatives available if you wish to exchange for more life water, Xia Qingying said when she saw Shi Feng's disappointed look. Smiling faintly, she continued, "As you manage to become a mental strength master before the age of 30, the Green God Company will be giving you a reward." "A reward?" Shi Feng immediately grew interested. "That's right. It is a reward for mental strength masters under the age of 30, Xiao Wuyuan said, nodding in agreement. "However, I do not recommend you use this reward to exchange for life water. This reward is something even 3-star masters desire greatly, as it can be used to redeem the privilege to enter and train in the core area, which is the top layer of this mountain. This privilege is for 1 month, and it will greatly help in the development of your mental strength. Normally, only after a person becomes a 3-star master would they get an opportunity to exchange for this privilege, and it's for only 10 days. Compared to this privilege, life water is something you can redeem anytime. Are you certain you want to exchange for life water?" "Yes." Shi Feng answered without hesitation. "All right, then. I really don't know what's going through the minds of you young people these days," Xia Wuyuan sighed when he saw Shi Feng's determined expression, evidently dissatisfied with Shi Feng's decision. He then turned to Xia Qingying and said, I still have to report this matter to the higher-ups, so I'll leave the rest of the explanation to you. Xia Qingying nodded obediently in response. After Xia Wuyuan finished speaking, he turned away and left the mansion, having no intention of continuing his conversation with Shi Feng. Shi Feng smiled bitterly at the old man's reaction. Don't mind it too much. Grandpa is just grumpy that you failed to meet his expectations. He doesn't know your circumstances, Xia Qingying consoled Shi Feng after seeing Xia Wuyuan leave. Since you wish to exchange for life water, you need only 2 bottles, correct? I can exchange for 2 bottles? Shi Feng was stunned. Originally, he thought that he could obtain only 1 bottle of life water as his reward and that he would have to spend trade points and contribution points to exchange for the other one. However, based on Xia Qingying's tone, it appeared that he could receive more than just 1 bottle of life water as his reward. This reward allows you to exchange for 3 bottles of life water. If you only need 2 bottles, I recommend you replace the remaining bottle with meditation potions. The meditation potion is more effective than the phantom potion and also functions to repair a person's mental state. Normally, a 1-star master can exchange for only 5 bottles per year. But if you trade in your 3rd bottle of life water, you can get 10 meditation potions. Okay, I'll take the 10 meditation potions, Shi Feng said with a nod, astonished by the reward the Green God Company offered. This reward was hundreds of times better than what he received for clearing the mental path above the age of 20. Shi Feng couldn't help being in awe of the Green God Company's generosity. Now, he realized how valuable the privilege to enter the top layer was. It was no wonder Xia Wuyuan felt disappointed at his decision. Nodding at Shi Feng's reply, Xia Qingying said, You probably can't return to the base layer anytime soon, so I'll pass the life water to those 2 on your behalf. As for the meditation potions, you can exchange for them through the mansion's storage room. I'll have to trouble you with that, General Manager Xia, Shi Feng said gratefully. It's no trouble. This is also within the scope of my duties. You are, after all, a talent I discovered. If you perform well in the middle layer, it'll be of great help to me, Xia Qingying said, waving her hand. All right, I won't disturb your rest any longer. After saying so, Xia Qingying boarded another maglev limousine and departed the middle layer, leaving Shi Feng alone to observe his top-tier mansion. Compared to the base layer's large mansion, this waterfall mansion had a slightly larger footprint. The waterfall alone occupied an area of 2 basketball courts. The water vapor coming from the waterfall was also incredible. Shi Feng felt his body becoming refreshed after inhaling only a mouthful of it. The regenerative effects of this water vapor probably nearly rivaled those of the S-rank nutrient fluid without any side effects. This small waterfall was an unlimited supply of weakened S-rank nutrient fluids. If sold to the outside world, it could definitely fetch an astronomical price. Probably no corporation in the outside world would ever dream that something like this waterfall could exist. After all, S-rank nutrient fluids were incomparably precious to the outside world's corporations, with only a very limited amount available each year. In fact, even the corporations operating in the upper zone's base layer would never think of drinking S-rank nutrient fluids like water. After Shi Feng finished marveling at the waterfall, he made his way into the mansion. So this is why anyone who has lived in the middle layer before would never wish to leave it again. Realization dawned upon Shi Feng as he looked at the hall in front of him. After he entered the mansion and closed the doors, the sound of splashing water cut off completely. The mansion's sound insulation was perfect. In addition, the special energy flowing inside the mansion was twice as strong as outside. If ordinary people lived in such an environment, even if they did nothing but lie on the ground, their physical fitness would still reach the half-step Henglian Grandmaster standard. If they trained their bodies a little, developing their physical fitness to the standard of Henglian Grandmasters would be no trouble at all. Moreover, this special energy also had an effect on a person's mental state, allowing a person to remain mentally energized as well as maintain an ethereal mood. If a person trained in such an environment for a long period, even if they didn't become a mental strength master, they would be close. Shi Feng could easily imagine how scary it would be to go from living in such an environment to living in the base layer's environment. The transition would be akin to being a billionaire living a rich and happy life in one moment and then suddenly becoming an ordinary person in the next moment. No ordinary human could possibly accept such a drastic change. It also explained why Feng Shihan was so adamant in preserving her middle layer reserve slot. So long as Feng Shihan could remain in the middle layer, her chances of becoming a mental strength master would be at least double than if she lived in the base layer. Is this the storage room? While touring the mansion, Shi Feng noticed a small room made entirely out of some unique metal. When he entered the room and accessed the interface inside, he had to marvel at the Green God Company's financial prowess. According to the introduction displayed, the storage room housed all the resources available for exchange in the middle layer. This storage room even had life water stocked. Through the storage room, he could immediately obtain the potion he wanted. He wouldn't have to spend time on a trip to the Green God Tower during emergencies. This was a great convenience provided to the middle layer's residents. Seeing this, Shi Feng decided to give this exchange system a try. The next moment, several laser scanners scanned Shi Feng's body and acquired his biometric data. After verifying his identity, the room's interface displayed the resources available to him. Currently, he had 10 meditation potions to his name, each worth 4 million trade points and 100,000 contribution points. 4 million trade points might not be anything to the base layer's corporations, but 100,000 contribution points was an entirely different story. Even the 5 States Corporation would have a heart attack if it had to spend so many contribution points on one item. For the time being, Shi Feng chose to redeem only one meditation potion. According to the product introduction, the meditation potion had to be stored in a special environment. And if taken out of storage, it could last for only 1 day in the outside world. After 1 day, the drug would lose its effects. Hence, he should only exchange for the amount he needed. How interesting. When Shi Feng spread his mental perception over the dark blue potion in his hand, he actually sensed weak mental fluctuations from it. Normally, he would pick up such mental fluctuations only from living creatures. However, he didn't dwell on the matter, consuming the meditation potion immediately. After all, his mental state was in dire need of it right now. Shi Feng had kept his brain overclocked throughout his fight with Fu Jiuzhong. While he had managed to smile and converse normally with Xia Wuyuan and Xia Qingying earlier, that was possible only because of his powerful willpower. If someone else were in his shoes, they probably would have passed out already. The moment Shi Feng consumed the meditation potion, the scorching heat he felt in his brain instantly cooled. His complexion also rapidly changed from pale white to rosy amazing. This is simply amazing. Shi Feng was dumbfounded when he sensed his mental state. With just one meditation potion, not only did he fully recover from his weakened state, but his mental state had also become surprisingly excellent. He even sensed faint improvements to his mental perception. These changes felt as if he had just consumed a crystal of souls from God's domain. With the meditation potion's effects, I will definitely improve further after consuming 10 bottles. This really makes a person wonder how the Green God Company managed to produce such a miracle drug. If this thing can be mass-produced, it will become possible to mass-produce mental strength masters. Shi Feng was astounded as he looked at the 9 remaining meditation potions he could exchange. After recovering to peak condition, Shi Feng promptly logged back into God's domain. Although he currently didn't have any good ideas on how to repel the Outer World's NPC army, he could share the news of Phoenix Rain's location and condition with Ji Luorong. This would, at least, give Ji Luorong some hope, and the girl wouldn't have to worry about her elder sister's whereabouts every day. Twin Towers Kingdom, Sky Spring City. When Shi Feng entered God's domain again, he was surprised to find that his perception of the world around him had changed slightly. What's going on? Shi Feng was greatly confused as he perceived the world around him. For some reason, his brain's recognition of God's domain was a bit different, and the world of God's domain now felt even more realistic than before. Is it because I used a combat technique in the real world? Feng could sense that his soul was stronger. This, in turn, directly elevated his concentration, which was previously almost Tier 5 advanced rank, to the Tier 5 peak rank. Now, he was only half a step from Tier 6 concentration. However, before Feng could snap out of his daze, he suddenly received a call from Feng Shihan. "Guild leader, are you alright?" Feng Shihan asked worriedly as she looked at Feng through the video call. "I heard you clashed with Fu Jiuzhong." Fu Jiuzhong is now a 3-star mental strength master in Haitian City's upper zone. Even if you're a mental strength master, your body will still be affected significantly after fighting with him. The existence of 3-star mental strength masters was no secret to middle-layer residents. It wasn't difficult for the base layer's top-tier corporations to find out about them either. Read latest chapters at Wuxia World. EU, relax. I've made a full recovery already, Feng replied, smiling. He was even tempted to say that should he clash with Fu Jiuzhong again, he definitely wouldn't end up in as miserable a state as before. That's wonderful. Feng Shihan breathed out a sigh of relief. She then said, "Guild leader, while you were logged off, the Outer World NPCs started their invasion. Several empires have already clashed with the Outer World NPCs and suffered heavy casualties. According to our estimates, the battle at the Twin Towers Kingdom will begin soon. So far, I've already contacted the various powers based in the Twin Towers Kingdom, Star Moon Kingdom, and several neighboring kingdoms that aren't embroiled in the war for a meeting in Sky Spring City. However, I'm not particularly confident we can get the neighboring kingdoms' player forces to cooperate with us since the superpowers based in the engaged empires are doing their best to recruit them." "Alright, I understand," Feng said, nodding. "Also, tell them that our meeting venue will be changed to Star Moon City." "Change the venue to Star Moon City?" Feng Shihan was a little confused. While Zero Wing indeed possessed a guild residence in Star Moon City, the royal capital wasn't one of Zero Wing's main NPC cities. Hence, Zero Wing didn't have much manpower available there. Meanwhile, organizing the meeting this time required a lot of manpower. Not to mention, in terms of quality and quantity, Zero Wing's members in Sky Spring City were far superior to those in Star Moon City. If they held the meeting in Sky Spring City, Zero Wing could better display its current strength and raise the various player forces' confidence in defending the Twin Towers Kingdom. Set it at Star Moon City. Feng said in a determined tone. "I understand. I'll notify them right away." Feng Shihan didn't pursue the matter. She then disconnected the call and began contacting the various powers. Meanwhile, Feng promptly teleported to Star Moon City and went straight to the War God's temple there. Previously, the branch temple Lord Howard Ragewind had promised Feng that he would handle all of the necessary procedures for Zero Wing to garrison Star Moon Kingdom. Now that so much time had passed, the branch temple lord should be mostly done. Chapter 29:10 Kingdom's Foundation. When Feng entered the War God's Temple's first-floor hall, a level 180, Tier 4 general manager approached him in a respectful manner. Upon seeing this sight, the players looking to pick up quests from the War God's Temple turned to Feng with envious and curious gazes. "Who is that guy? Why is the general manager personally receiving him? I recall some Tier 4 experts coming to pick up quests some time ago. That general manager didn't bat an eye at them, yet he's actually taking the initiative to welcome a player now. Could that guy be Black Flame? He must be Black Flame. I heard Black Flame always moves alone and loves concealing his identity. Out of all the players operating in Star Moon Kingdom, only Black Flame might get the general manager to treat him with such respect." Shortly after the players in the hall observed Feng's cloaked figure, passionate flames flared up in their eyes. They also began approaching him, hoping to take pictures or videos as mementos of meeting the legendary Sword Saint. After all, Black Flame was a living legend in the current god's domain. He was also the reason many new players had chosen to play the swordsman class. In no time at all, posts with titles such as Sword Saint Black Flame appears in War God's Temple, and Sword Saint Black Flame seen in Starmoon City, began appearing on Starmoon Kingdom's official forums one after another. This situation rendered Shifeng speechless. He had initially used the Nightwalker's cape to conceal his identity. Nevertheless, these cunning players still managed to identify him almost immediately. "Lord Sword Saint, the Temple Lord instructed me to give you this should you visit us," the general manager said respectfully as he proffered a rolled-up parchment. "The contract's contents will take effect as soon as you sign it." After receiving the parchment scroll, Shifeng nodded and said, "Please thank the Temple Lord for me." The contract the general manager handed Shifeng held the signature of Starmoon Kingdom's ruler. Once Shifeng signed his name on the contract, Zero Wing would officially garrison Starmoon Kingdom and become its representative guild. At that time, Zero Wing would be able to dictate the kingdom's development and even mobilize the kingdom's army. After reading the contract's contents, Shifeng signed it without hesitation. The sound of a system notification immediately entered his ears. "System, congratulations. Your guild, Zero Wing, has officially garrisoned Starmoon Kingdom and become the kingdom's representative guild. Zero Wing will now enjoy a portion of the kingdom's management rights." At the same time, a system announcement rang throughout Starmoon Kingdom. Starmoon Kingdom Region System Announcement: Congratulations to Zero Wing for officially garrisoning Starmoon Kingdom and becoming the kingdom's representative guild. Zero Wing will now enjoy a portion of the kingdom's management rights. The system announcement echoed in the minds of the Starmoon Kingdom's players 3 times, triggering an uproar among the kingdom's players. What's going on? Zero Wing garrisoned the kingdom? Didn't they say that only the reserve guilds of God's domain's 12 great guilds are qualified to garrison a country? The sudden system announcement confused many players. Zero Wing's members, though, were exhilarated, especially the guild's new members. After this announcement, even a fool would understand that Zero Wing now had the final say in everything inside Starmoon Kingdom. Now, even the superpowers wouldn't dare interfere in the kingdom's matters. With this development, Zero Wing's newcomers could not only grind without worry within the kingdom but also gain access to numerous kingdom quests unavailable to other players. These kingdom quests would instantly resolve Zero Wing's concerns of developing its newcomers. Many of Starmoon Kingdom's player forces could already imagine Zero Wing's future rapid development. After all, now that Zero Wing had Starmoon Kingdom as a buffer, the guild could recruit new members without worrying about training resources. It wouldn't have to recruit only Tier 3 elite players and above. While elite players were indeed stronger than ordinary players, they made up only a small portion of God's domain's player base. And with Zero Wing's current size, the guild might be able to defend its existing territory, but it would face great difficulty if it wanted to expand. However, this development resolved Zero Wing's weakness. Good. I finally did it. Shifeng smiled spontaneously when he saw the system notification. Immediately afterward, he left the War God's Temple and made his way to Starmoon Kingdom's national treasury. Guilds that garrisoned an entire kingdom or empire actually received a massive hidden benefit. Apart from the monthly tribute from the garrisoned country, representative guilds also gained access to the country's national treasury. A country's national treasury housed heirlooms that served as the country's foundation. And while players could exchange for these heirlooms using resources, they had to have the status of a Grand Duke in the country. Although Shifeng didn't have the status of a Grand Duke in Starmoon Kingdom, he had the status of an elder in the War God's Temple. In God's domain, an elder of the War God's Temple sat higher than even the Grand Dukes of empires. Shifeng naturally wouldn't have any problems exchanging for the heirlooms in a kingdom's national treasury. Meanwhile, royal heirlooms were far more valuable than what one could normally obtain through killing powerful monsters. They were items that could change the fate of an entire kingdom or empire. Hence, once a guild became a reserve guild of the 12 great guilds, dethroning it was incredibly difficult. In no time at all, Shifeng arrived at the palace and reached the treasury unhindered. It was no exaggeration to say that the national treasury was the safest location in the entire Starmoon Kingdom. 8 Level 180, Tier 4 NPCs stood guard at the entrance alone. Moreover, these 8 NPCs were no ordinary NPCs. Although none of them wielded a legendary weapon, they were all clad in fragmented legendary set equipment. In terms of individual strength, these NPCs were more than capable of holding their ground against ordinary Tier 5 existences. Apart from these 8 NPCs, there was also a level 200, Tier 4 Knight Captain stationed inside the treasury. The Knight Captain sported a legendary chest plate, and his combat power had undoubtedly reached the Tier 5 threshold. Most importantly, a magic barrier enveloped the entire treasury. If one wished to break through this magic barrier, one would need a force of 3 to 5 Tier 5 existences, at the very least. Lord Sword Saint, may I know what business you have here? The Knight Captain asked respectfully when Shifeng entered the treasury. I'm here to exchange for the items here, Shifeng stated. Please follow me. The Knight Captain then led Shifeng to the after descending 4 floors and walking for around half an hour, Shifeng arrived in front of a secret room enclosed by a magic barrier. Sitting quietly inside the room was an old man who made Shifeng feel pressured. A Tier 5 Grand Wizard? Shifeng was a little surprised when he saw the old man. Starmoon Kingdom's foundation was far stronger than he expected. After all, apart from being a Tier 5 existence, the old man in front of him also wore a legendary hat. Ordinary Tier 5 existences who tried to invade the treasury would only get roundly thrashed by this old man. Lord Sword Saint, please enter, the Knight Captain said while respectfully gesturing for Shifeng to enter the secret room. From the Knight Captain's actions, Shifeng guessed that the other party could go only as far as the secret room's entrance. After giving the Knight Captain a nod, Shifeng stepped into the room. Shifeng immediately noticed the room's uniqueness. The environment here resembled the ancient era's environment, which was already rare in the current god's domain. Lord Sword Saint, since you have already signed a contract with His Majesty, according to the contract, you are qualified to exchange for one of the items here, the old man said as he looked at Shifeng. He then waved his hand, summoning 3 items in front of Shifeng. The founding king left behind these 3 items. These items are why our Starmoon Kingdom was able to rise up in the main continent. I hope one of them can be of help to you. When Shifeng saw the 3 items before him, his eyes bulged immediately. This was because Starmoon Kingdom's foundation far exceeded Shifeng's expectations, so much so that he wondered how a kingdom could have such a powerful foundation. The 3 items before him were neither inferior divine artifact ranked items or legendary ranked items. Instead, they were 2 designs and 1 recipe, and any of them could influence even an empire's development. The first to enter Shifeng's eyes was the design for a mysterious iron flying ship, which was many times stronger than the Crimson Dragon flying ship, an advanced flying ship. Not only was it capable of going up against Tier 4 superior mythic monsters, but its strongest attack even reached the Tier 5 intermediate standard. It could tear through the defensive magic arrays of cities like paper. Moreover, it had a maximum carrying capacity of 300 people. However, it cost a mind-blowing 1.5 million gold coins and 1 million magic crystals to exchange for the mysterious iron flying ship's design. The second item that drew Shifeng's eyes was the recipe of the Divine Power Potion, a Grandmaster Potion. As the potion's name suggested, players would gain divine power when they consumed the potion. For half an hour, players would have their tier elevated by 1, up to a maximum of Tier 4. Although Shifeng had heard of potions that raised a player's tier by 1, he had never heard of any that could raise a player's tier to Tier 4. Moreover, the potion even had a long duration of 30 minutes. In the current era where Tier 4 players were still as rare as a phoenix's feather, the recipe for the Divine Power Potion was priceless. Even an ordinary first-rate guild would become an existence feared by the 5 great super guilds should it get its hands on this recipe. Read latest chapters at Wuxia World. EU. Meanwhile, this recipe cost 1 million gold coins and 1.5 million magic crystals. The last item to enter Shifeng's eyes was the design for a combat puppet, a secret silver combat puppet. Throughout both his lives, Shifeng had seen a secret silver combat puppet only once. In God's domain, bronze combat puppets possessed power at the Tier 3 peak standard. Even in the current God's domain, a bronze combat puppet was an incredibly powerful existence. Unless a Tier 4 existence appeared, a bronze combat puppet was unlikely to get destroyed. Above bronze combat puppets were mysterious iron combat puppets, which possessed combat power at the Tier 4 peak standard. They could go toe-to-toe against bona fide Tier 4 players. As for secret silver combat puppets, they possess strength at the Tier 5 basic standard. Tier 4 existences would have a very difficult time destroying a secret silver combat puppet, and normally only Tier 5 existences could damage one. Meanwhile, the design for the secret silver combat puppet cost 2 million gold coins and 1 million magic crystals. Chapter 29:11 Heirlooms secured. Shifeng hesitated over the Star Moon Kingdom's 3 royal heirlooms. All 3 treasures could help a kingdom rise to prominence and a guild to reach the apex of God's domain instantly. Moreover, each had its advantages. I can exchange for only one? Shifeng couldn't help asking. Only one, the old man replied with a smile. However, if you manage to help elevate Star Moon Kingdom into an empire, you are free to exchange for all 3. Promotion to an empire? Shifeng shook his head and smiled bitterly. While he knew of a few ways to get a kingdom promoted into an empire, none of these methods was easy to realize. They all needed a long time to accomplish. After thinking up to this point, Shifeng suddenly had an idea. He then asked the old man, "What if I offer to swap heirlooms?" Heirlooms could be categorized into royal heirlooms, imperial heirlooms, continental heirlooms, and world heirlooms. In the past, the players that had the fortune to come across an unidentified royal or imperial heirloom would do everything they could to find the fallen country the heirloom used to belong to. Since these heirlooms were treasures left behind by fallen kingdoms and empires, so long as one successfully identified the heirloom, one could use it to re-establish that kingdom or even empire. However, locating kingdoms and empires that had long since disappeared from God's domain wasn't easy. The endeavor rivaled a legendary quest in difficulty. Take Shifeng for example. Although he had found an imperial heirloom very early into the game, he still hadn't managed to find any clues to the empire the heirloom belonged to. However, this didn't particularly surprise him. After all, at this stage of the game, players had explored less than 20% of God's domain's maps. Indeed. Even now, the players of God's domain had explored barely 15% of the world's maps. In God's domain, human kingdoms and empires occupied only a small portion of the world's territories. Most of the 2 main continents consisted of level 150+ neutral maps, and only after 40% of the game's player base reached level 180, Tier 3 or above could players adequately explore these maps. Not to mention, this was only the 2 main continents. There was still the vast ocean in God's domain, which held innumerable islands, some as large as kingdoms and empires. Hence, finding a fallen empire in God's domain was unbelievably difficult. This was why one of the top 10 rookie guilds in the past, which had acquired an unidentified imperial heirloom through an auction, had used this imperial heirloom to exchange for an identified royal heirloom from a kingdom. Afterward, the guild saw explosive growth and quickly became one of the reserve guilds of God's domain's 12 great guilds at the time. Although Shifeng wasn't sure how that guild had conducted the exchange, it would be a huge waste if he didn't ask if he could conduct a similar exchange. Swap heirlooms? The old man was a little stunned by Shifeng's question. After pondering for some time, he said, "That's possible, but are you willing to pay such a huge price?" "What is the price?" Shifeng asked. "Firstly, you need to find an unidentified imperial heirloom. Secondly, you need to pay double the price for a royal heirloom," the old man answered. Double? Shifeng was flabbergasted. A royal heirloom was by no means cheap, and all 3 of the royal heirlooms before him cost upwards of 1 million gold coins and 1 million magic crystals. If this price were doubled, even superpowers couldn't afford them. That's right. However, the most important part is still the imperial heirloom. Without it, it won't matter how many resources you offer, the old man said, nodding. Deal. I'll trade an unidentified imperial heirloom for the mysterious iron flying ship. I'll also use my exchange opportunity for the secret silver combat puppet. Shi Feng said, gritting his teeth as he took out the imperial heirloom sitting inside his bag. Before visiting the royal treasury, he had already taken all the funds Zero Wing could spare. However, he only had a total of 5 million gold coins and 3 million magic crystals on him. After all, the recruitment of NPC soldiers and the construction of defensive structures in ancient Rock City cost a lot of money and resources. Although Zero Wing City and ancient Rock City were raking in a significant income now, it still wasn't enough to cover ancient Rock City's development costs. You actually have one. The old man was surprised to see the imperial heirloom in Shi Feng's hands. Yes, so hurry up with the exchange. Shi Feng nodded with an aching heart. All right. That will be 5 million gold coins and 3 million magic crystals in total, the old man said as he extended his hand to Shi Feng. Verify the amount, Shi Feng said as he transferred the necessary amount of coins and magic crystals to the old man's spatial bag. After verifying that the amount was correct, the old man waved his hand, and 2 ancient designs flew to Shi Feng. When Shi Feng saw these 2 designs, his heart pounded with excitement. Although purchasing these 2 designs had nearly bankrupted him, their value was immeasurable. Now, all he needed to do was gather the necessary materials and begin mass production. The materials needed are certainly extraordinary. Even the most common of these materials is incredibly rare in the current God's domain. Producing both of these items will also require a ton of Titan gold and magic elven stones. Veins of Titan gold ore were considered grade 2 veins in God's domain and incredibly rare, but they were the only way players could acquire Titan gold ore in large quantities. Other types of grade 2 veins produce Titan gold ore only occasionally. Overall, Titan gold was super rare, and just 1 ingot could sell for over a dozen gold coins. As for the magic elven stone, acquiring it had given Shi Feng a headache when he was planning to construct the Crimson Dragon flying ship. However, the Crimson Dragon flying ship's construction cost was nothing compared to the mysterious iron-ranked Blue Thunder flying ship. Even if he excluded the other materials required, just the 5,000 ingots of Titan gold and 600 magic elven stones required would already cost a fortune. As for the secret silver-ranked Flame Beast puppet, its construction required 1,000 ingots of Titan gold and 200 magic elven stones. Both items required magic elven stones in significant quantities to produce. Fortunately, when Yen Yen Cleansing Whistle returned from the ancient era, they had brought back plenty of magic elven stones. Currently, Zero Wing had a stockpile of over 4,000 magic elven stones, just barely enough to construct an adequate number of Blue Thunder flying ships and Flame Beast puppets. The only problem now was the Titan gold. Zero Wing only had around 30,000 ingots. While Shi Feng was studying the 2 designs, Fang Shihan suddenly called him. Guild leader. The guild leaders and representatives of the Twin Towers Kingdom and Star Moon Kingdom's various player forces have arrived. However, hardly any guilds from the neighboring kingdoms showed up, Fang Shihan said in frustration. None of the 2 superpowers came, and only 3 of the 8 first-rate guilds showed up. As for second-rate guilds, they number less than 20. This attendance rate was abysmally low. The guilds that came to help from the several neighboring kingdoms were fewer than the guilds in Star Moon Kingdom. Not to mention, neither of the 2 superpowers decided to show up. Are they all waiting to jack up the price? Shi Feng chuckled. He could understand the 2 superpowers' refusal. After all, the various superpowers had a lot of territories to cover, and they focused mainly on defending empires. However, there was no excuse for first- and second-rate guilds that weren't involved in the war to withhold their help. The only reason they decided not to show up at Zero Wing's war meeting had to be that they considered this a good opportunity to make a profit. If Zero Wing wished to get their help, then it would have to pay a price. Revealing a bitter smile, Fang Shihan said, the first-rate guilds that aren't attending indeed have such an intention. In return for their full support, they are demanding the rights to purchase private houses and guild residences in Zero Wing City or Ancient Rock City. They say that the other superpowers have already promised them such conditions. However, if we agree to their demands, then they will choose to help our side instead. Shi Feng's act of devastating the Outer Worlds player army with a single attack had indeed caused a huge sensation in God's domain. It had also prompted most of the superpowers targeting Zero Wing to abandon their ambitions. Many of the Twin Towers Kingdoms and Star Moon Kingdom's independent experts had even returned to help in the two kingdoms' defense. Most importantly, the number of players seeking to join Zero Wing had also skyrocketed. Unfortunately, all these changes still weren't enough to persuade the unengaged player forces to help Zero Wing. This was because the Outer Worlds NPC army was more formidable than the Outer Worlds player army. There were multiple Tier 5 NPCs in the NPC army, and the upcoming battlefield would span a significant portion of the Twin Towers Kingdom's border. All sorts of siege battles and guerrilla warfare would take place, and there was no way Shi Feng could be present for every one of these fights. Moreover, the NPC army on the Twin Towers Kingdom and Star Moon Kingdom side was significantly weaker than the Outer Worlds NPC army. Because of mythology and Solar Temple's interference, the neighboring kingdoms uninvolved in the war didn't send their armies to reinforce the Twin Towers Kingdom and Star Moon Kingdom but to other kingdoms and empires. Hence, the NPC army defending the Twin Towers Kingdom consisted of the NPCs of only the two kingdoms. Although the Outer Worlds NPC army had split up into several dozen smaller groups and the detachment marching toward the Twin Towers Kingdom didn't have player support, this detachment could still put the two kingdoms' joint army through hell. Hence, a large number of players was needed to fight the Outer Worlds NPCs. And realizing this fact, the neighboring kingdoms' first-rate guilds naturally wouldn't miss the opportunity to get a cut of Zero Wing's resources. Good. Very good. Shi Feng smiled when he heard Feng Shihan's words. Tell those first-rate guilds that they can come if they want. But if they don't, then they can forget about coming to us in the future. Read latest chapters at Wuxia World. This, Shi Feng's reply rendered Feng Shihan momentarily speechless. If she relayed Shi Feng's words to those 5 first-rate guilds, it would be no different from severing all ties between Zero Wing and these first-rate guilds. Meanwhile, the War of Worlds wouldn't end in just one day. As both sides continuously grew stronger and more numerous, it would end up a war of attrition between God's domain and the outer world. If Zero Wing rejected the help of these guilds now, it would have much more difficulty finding helpers in the future. After all, battles were taking place all over the eastern continent, and everywhere was lacking in manpower. It was also why the superpowers tolerated the various first- and second-rate guilds' absurd demands. Otherwise, the superpowers would have long since dealt with these large guilds. Shi Feng naturally understood what Feng Shihan was trying to say. He waved the 2 designs in his hand and smiled, saying, "Look what I have here." You're tuning into the Biyao's Wuxia Chronicles YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.